So till now we have been discussing topics. We discussed 4 topics. First, we discussed the art of discipline. Then we discussed success versus satisfaction and the concept of human being versus human doing and having. And in the last topic we discussed is the miracle of mantra, where we discussed around 3 benefits of chanting mantra. Now, as far as regarding the miracles of mantra, I have divided that session into around 3 sessions, but we will not be taking them consecutively. We'll be taking them at several gaps. So we took part 1 last time, and after a few sessions again, we will take part 2, and then after some time, part 3. Because what I request everyone is that when we take some session, since we also pass on the notes to you, you apply those teachings, those discussions, and practice it for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. Week by week, apply those things in your practice. At least some time everybody must spend on mananam or introspection and contemplation on how to apply. Otherwise, it just becomes a Friday morning entertainment session or just a ritualistic session. So therefore, some sessions I'll be taking at intervals like after a few weeks. So going ahead, today we are discussing something very, very important and very, very close to my heart also. The topic of building trustworthiness. Now, again, this topic is also a long topic. Let us see how far we go. And if required, we will do one more session after this. Thank you so much, Srinivasan ji, for an encouraging comment on how you are applying the teachings of miracles of mantra and chanting shloka. You are writing in the chat box. This is also amazing that there's a reciprocation sometimes required. All of you have been hearing these sessions. And it's always good that if some of you can mention in the chat some of your experiences through these sessions, they are very helpful. So that way I also come to know what points you have been picking up and what do you like. Okay, now going ahead with the subject of trustworthiness. Let me know if you are not able to see the presentation. I have shared the screen and I hope you are able to see the presentation which is shared on the screen. If any challenges, do let me know. So as you see the contents, the first is the meaning and the importance of trust. Second is the mathematics of trust and how to develop trust and how to respond to distrust and restore trust. So we will take one by one each of these points, but as you see, importance of trust is the foremost. First, we understand why this topic is important. Then some of the equations will be discussed under the heading of mathematics of trust. Then how to develop trust and how to respond to distrust. So I hope the flow is very clear. Now we go ahead. The dictionary definition of trust. Trust is the confidence in the honesty, integrity, reliability, and justice of another person. Now see, trust plays a it's a very important word, especially in today's society. Because it is mentioned there are 4 yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. The whole time frame is divided into 4 yugas. Now these 4 different parts into which the time span is divided, each has its own characteristic. Now, as we always discuss about the concept of gravity in science, gravitational force, anything you try to lift up, there's a lot of energy required, but the moment you release your hand, it just comes down. Similarly, the qualities of human society comes down as the time passes from Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga to Dwapar Yuga to Kali Yuga. The current time is of Kali Yuga, which means qualities have substantially been reduced. In fact, Srila Vyasadeva, who wrote Vedic scriptures, this is what he envisioned for Kali Yuga, that in Kali Yuga, many of the qualities will reduce. Specifically, the qualities, if you what you see in front of you in red: honesty, integrity, reliability, justice will reduce. To understand this in the Shastric terms, I would say there are 4 pillars of a religious society, of a dharmic society. See, religion is not Hindu, Christian, Muslim, all these things. This is not religion. These are external designations. When we say dharma, dharma has 4 pillars, whichever state, whichever country, whichever nationality you might be born in. But to be called a person of dharma, 4 pillars are there. And what are the 4 pillars? I guess previously I have discussed with you. This is MACT. M for mercy, A for austerity. So mercy has to be there. Austerity, there has to be element of austerity, tapasya. C, cleanliness of body and of mind. And T for truthfulness, satya. We will be discussing a separate session on each one of them out of this 4. But right now, why I'm mentioning all this? In Satya Yuga, all these 4 are in full present. People have mercy, people have a habit of austerity, therefore they could do tapasya for thousands of years. Nowadays, we are so much used to air condition and refrigerator. Even one day of a simple life, one day living a simple life without all these comforts becomes so difficult. Then C is cleanliness and T is truthfulness, satya. So Vishesh Rup se, especially I will focus on this satya. So gradually all these 4 things ready. Okay. Satya Yuga, they were in full. Treta Yuga, they were reduced by 1/4. Dwapar Yuga, again 1/4. And Kali Yuga, only 1/4 is remaining. So this means Kali Yuga, only 1/4 is remaining. And out of that also, mercy is very less. Austerity is very less. Cleanliness is very less. To some degree, truthfulness is there, but even that is dwindling. That's how Srimad Bhagavatam explains. So when there is such lack of truth, naturally there is lack of trust. And therefore, a lot of training is required in this perspective, because husband and wife lack trust on each other. Children lack trust on their parents. Parents lack trust on their children. In an organization, people lack trust on each other. Employers lack trust on their employees. Employees lack trust on their employers. We lack trust on our neighbors. So like this, we lack trust on our government. Government lacks trust on the citizens. So trust is a very important thing, concept to be discussed. As you see in the screen, trust is not just the greatest currency, it is the only currency which is required to buy strong relations. Again, whether it is relations at a very personal level or at a very professional level. But to buy trust, you need currency. And which currency? Trust. Not just the greatest currency, but it's the only currency. Previously, when we were discussing the concept of time, we were discussing time is not just the important thing, it's the main thing. That was from perspective of time. Now we are talking about trust. I hope you can see it clearly on the screen. Trust as a currency. Now, this is an exercise we usually do in our offline sessions. For the following scenarios, as you see the scenarios written in front of you, for the following scenarios, enlist your emotions and responses regarding a person you trust and someone you do not trust. We will be sending you this exercise in your notes, but now just look at this. A cab driver, let's say. Lack of trust. What kind of emotions and responses are there? There's fear, there is suspicion. And presence of trust, you can be just so peaceful. You can just sit behind and you can just be rest assured you will reach your destination without any hassles. You can keep doing your work. Or there can be a very cordial talk. People start developing sometimes very good friendships, sometimes driving while in a cab with the cab driver. Now you can do this exercise for everyone, for a doctor, for a shopkeeper, for a colleague, for an organization. And so this exercise you can do later on. But the point is, emotions and responses which are generated when there is a lack of trust and when there is a presence of trust. Now, discussing the first heading which we had, the importance of trust. You see, communication begins with trust. When Hanumanji reached Lanka, and in Lanka, Hanumanji wanted to find Mother Sita. So finally, he did find Mother Sita sitting in Ashok Vatika in a corner in seclusion. But it was very difficult to approach Sita because when Hanumanji reached Mother Sita, that time he saw Ravan was standing there and Ravan was tormenting Mother Sita like anything. Ravan was trying to play various tricks on Mother Sita, and not only Ravan, the whole atmosphere. There were so many demons and Rakshasas who had the ability to change their forms. In fact, one time Ravana brought a head in front of Mother Sita, and their head just looked like the head of Lord Ram, but it was created by some magical powers. He just wanted to convey Mother Sita that your husband is dead. This means a lot of mystical powers were there, magical powers were there. And when so much illusion was there, naturally a person loses trust. Who is coming with what intentions? Like sometimes a famous saying goes, never trust a politician. This kind of saying sometimes goes, because of repeated breach of trust over several years and decades, people have lost trust. So even if a good person will come, people will not trust him easily. We do not know what intentions that person has. So when we are living in an atmosphere which is surcharged with distrust, it becomes difficult to trust. So to start communication, first you have to establish trust. And please understand, if somebody doesn't honor you, which you feel that you deserve a certain honor, which means they lack trust on you. Therefore, this subject is important. Why? To build trust. Now, in this case, Hanumanji was given a special ring by Lord Ram. And first thing when Hanumanji came there, Hanumanji started singing the glories of Lord Ram. And when Hanumanji started singing the glories, and after that, Hanumanji presented that small ring to Mother Sita, which was given by Lord Ram. Mother Sita developed trust. It's a detailed discussion how she developed distrust, how she developed trust. But the concept is that only after that trust developed, that here is a person who is not some demon coming out of Lanka, but he is coming from the abode of my husband from Lord Ram, Sita was ready to communicate and ready to discuss with Hanumanji about what can be done to get out of Lanka. So communication begins with trust. If there is a blockage of communication and you are not feeling accepted somewhere, or you're not able to accept someone, which there means lack of trust. We need to build it. Not only communication begins with trust, but the next statement is relationship begins with trust. Now, this is again a very wonderful example from Ramayana. You see, when Vibhishan came, to take shelter of Lord Ram. Now, what happened was Vibhishan was thrown out by Ravana and his son, because Vibhishan was always trying to give good advice to them and tell them, please surrender to Lord Ram. That is the right way. But Ravana had so much, he was lust personified. And as we discussed, lust is a whimsical desire against the regulations of scriptures. He wanted to enjoy Mother Sita, but did not want service to Lord Ram. You see, in our case also, it happens sometimes. We want lot of Lakshmi. People are worshipping Lakshmi, Lakshmi Puja. But they do not want to understand the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So they want Lakshmi without Narayan. They want Sita without Ram. We want to enjoy life in our own whimsical ways. We want to get everything, but we do not want to follow the regulations of scriptures. That lack of interest in study of Bhagavad Gita, but too much interest in getting the material opulences. Therefore, it is mentioned, our situation is like Ravan. And if somebody tries to teach us, somebody tries to bring us to good path, it becomes difficult to accept that suggestion, feedback, opinions. Vibhishan was one of those. So Vibhishan left everything in Ravana's kingdom because Ravan was not ready to hear. And then Vibhishan came to Lord Ram. And when Vibhishan came to Lord Ram, as we see in the slide here, just like Sita was doubting all the demons, all the followers of Ram, most of them, especially Sugriv and all the Vanaras who were present, Ram consulted them. What do you think about this? Sugriv, Jambavan, etc. They all told Lord Ram, no, we should not take him. After all, he's the brother of a demon, and brother of a demon must be a demon. But then it was Hanumanji who told Lord Ramchandra, we must accept Vibhishan. He seems to, by his body language, by his face expression, we can understand that he is very genuine. Let's trust him. And anyway, he can't harm us. We are all so powerful. He's staying in our camp. He cannot harm us, even if he has slightest intention. And even Lord Ram wanted to do that, wanted to trust. So Vibhishan, who was thrown out by his brother, he had a breach of trust with his brother, but he had full trust in Lord Ram, that Lord Ram will give shelter. And he kept trust in Lord Ram. So Lord Ram also trusted Vibhishan and gave shelter. So a relationship begins by a mutual trust. Okay, I trust you, you trust me. Let's start a relationship from there. Trust is required. Okay, leadership begins with trust. Very important, leadership begins with trust. If the citizens, if the dependents, subordinates do not have trust in the leadership, how can the person lead? Now, this is an example from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 16th chapter, 15th verse, as you see on the screen. And it is mentioned there, a beautiful verse. Ranjayishyati yallokam ayam atma vicheshtitai. Athamum ahurajanam mano ranjana kai praja. Ranjashyati yallokam ayam atma vicheshtita. Now, what is this verse trying to tell us? Now, Prithu Maharaj, as you see here in the picture, who is the king there, He's one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. At one point, he was ruling the entire planet. And when Prithu Maharaj was ruling, it is mentioned when he took over the kingdom, a group of reciters and the Brahmanas and different categories of people came and started reciting the glories of Prithu Maharaj. Now, a simple example I would like to give to make you understand this point. You see, when we go to attend a discourse, somebody is going to address us. So generally, the trend is, the system is that somebody else whom the audience knows already comes in the front and gives an introduction of the speaker. And when the introduction of the speaker is given, it is given in such a way that audience can develop faith on the person, that here is a person who is well qualified, who has been doing this job for such a time. So trust has to be developed. A patient goes to the doctor. So trust is developed by telling that, okay, this doctor has performed so many treatments successfully done last 2 decades, 3 decades, things like that. So trust develops. Similarly, when a king starts ruling, that time when King Prithu started ruling, a group of qualified people came and started telling the glories of this personality, because ordinary people may not know. And they started telling that how when this king will rule, they told a series of Sanskrit shlokas, around 30-40 shlokas are there, you will find in this chapter. But this specific shloka we have taken, where he says, where the group of people are saying that, oh my dear citizens, this king who has now taken up the position, be rest assured, he is going to please all his citizens by practical activities. This is wonderful. He says by practical activities, he is going to please all his citizens. Ranjayishati yallokam, prasanna karenge sabko. एक छोटी छोटी detail, not that he will come and give a very good speech and on a very philosophical level, but nothing practical coming out of it. You know, sometimes we become very people get very irritated that when you just speak all lofty words but nothing practical out there. So he says he is going to do practical activities. And then there was trust immediately on Prithu Maharaj. Okay, he is the person. All the citizens were so happy. So leadership begins with trust. So to conclude this topic on importance of trust, trust in simple words means confidence, and opposite of trust, distrust, is suspicion. Trust or lack of it is the root of all success or failure in relationships and work. Very important. In relationships and work, these two places, trust is crucial, utmost crucial. And trust allows people to form productive and meaningful relationships, both at a professional and a personal level. So look at this slide. And today we decided we will also be giving some breaks in between. If anybody we will be giving like break at some intervals. If you have anybody has any questions, they can ask that time. So if anyone want to ask anything till now, we discussed about the importance of trust, and then we'll be going to the next topic, that is mathematics of trust. If anybody wants to ask anything in this regard, please do write in the chat. I'm giving you a break of few seconds.
Thank you, Manjunath ji, for telling that the voice is low. Can you hear me better now? Somebody is giving a feedback that the voice is low. Can you hear me better now? I have made some changes. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so here we have very good comments coming now on the chat. Now, one of the comment which is coming is we have also lacking trust as humans. And then somebody is telling Sanjay Dholakia ji, I'm not sure what you wrote. There's some lacking some words there. Balaji is mentioning how to handle scenarios when trust is broken. That's a discussion at the end of this seminar. Very much it is included in the seminar. And references to Bhagavad Gita. So today what I am going to do is I'm going to send you in the notes the connections to Bhagavad Gita. So thank you, Praveen ji, for making that point. Then sometimes the same person looks trustworthy and next moment otherwise. Yes, this point is going to come very soon. So trust is two-way. Thank you. Dr. Sankhe has raised hand, I think. Would you like to say something? Yes.
Yeah. So just wanted to thank comment that even though trust is such a fundamental thing for every relationship, and that's how the world goes on. Actually, it's on some basic trust between mother and a child. We trust the bus driver when we are sitting in the bus. So some basic trust is there. But at the same time, when it comes to uh, official institutes of trust, that means the marriage or a cooperative living in a society, trust seems to be, in spite of all the seminars which we hear and the importance of it, uh, where does it begin? Like, who should start it? Like, is it like the I should start trusting first, and then the opposite party will trust, or I should start with mistrust and then the opposite party will be proving itself that we are trustworthy? How does it begin? Like you said, the trust begins with communication begins with trust. So that's where the problem is. There is no trust.
Yes, thank you for that very relevant comment. Either it is marriage or some relationship, instituted relationship like that. So trust definitely begins with first trying to become trustworthy and trying to also somewhere actually some of the components of trust we will be discussing. There are almost 9 components of trust which we'll be discussing today, but your comment is definitely well taken. And also somebody is mentioning in the comment with respect to this, trust is two-way. Ramachandran Iyer ji is mentioning, yes, trust is two-way. So first is becoming trustworthy and then expecting trust from others. So we will gradually see how those 9 points work in any relationship. So let us see that. Going ahead, mathematics of trust. So till now we discussed the importance of trust, and now mathematics. So trust grows linearly but can dwindle exponentially. That is the first mathematics of trust. It grows linearly but can dwindle exponentially. So in this regard, somebody has mentioned very nicely that, you know, trust is building trust. Building trust is like adding bricks to a building, a tall building. So the length of the building grows by adding brick, one brick, second brick, third brick. But then sometimes the lowest level of brick which you had put there to make the tall building, if you remove that, suddenly the whole building collapses immediately. So something which took so much effort to build, but the whole structure collapses. Therefore, it is mentioned with regard to this first point. This first point is trust grows linearly, but can dwindle exponentially. It is said impressions of untrustworthiness carry greater weightage and leave deeper marks than impressions of trustworthiness. Look at this example, again the famous example of Kekai comes. Spend whole life winning the trust of Dashrath. You see, this is a wonderful story. What happened was, Dashrath was one time fighting with the demon Sambarasura. And Kekai was the charioteer of Dashrath. And at one point, Sambarasura became so powerful, he was shooting so many arrows, and Sambarasura expanded into 10 forms. So 10 demons standing by the side of Dashrath. And he was shooting arrows, Sambarasura, on Dashrath. So Dashrath's chariot wheel came out. The screws or something in the wheel came out. So that time what Kekai did, Kekai put her finger inside the wheel. And the whole wheel was resting on the whole burden of the wheel was resting on the finger of Kekai. And Keikai's hand was bleeding. And Dashrath, when he saw that his wife has done so much for him, that time Dashrath's eyes, there were tears in his eyes. And there was not one but many such instances of years and years and years where Dashrath had developed trust in Kekai. But when Kekai demanded something so heinous, something so low, of course influenced by mantra, Dashrath was just shocked. How can such a lady, on whom actually Dashrath trusted Kekai so much that Dashrath told Kekai that I am ready to give you anything, and I swear on the name of Ram, my dearest son, that whatever you demand, if you tell me to punish even the most pious, I will punish, and if you tell me to release the most sinful from the prison, I will release them. He made this statement because he just thought that Kekai will not ask something so disgusting anyways. So what's the harm? Spent whole life winning the trust, but broke with one whimsical action. And that time Dashrath says, the kind of demand you are asking, now I am realizing the one whom I was embracing to my chest all these years was nothing but a poisonous snake. And at the right time, that snake has bit me into my chest and put her poison. So, grows linearly but breaks exponentially. This is another example. This is one of the airways, who was one of the most successful airways. People had trust for a long time. But then what happened in the history, at one time, a lot of tragic incidents happened in a short period of time. And some terrorist attacks were happened, and in which this airways was involved. And as a result, people lost complete interest. And I think in 1990, this airways had to be shut down. So that's how this is an example of losing trust. Next thing, something to the effect with Dr. Sankhe was making a comment. If you do not extend trust, you won't attract trust, and also vice versa. So you have to extend a trust, otherwise you won't attract trust. Very, very deep statement. I just want to share one story here in this regard. In Mahabharata, there's a beautiful story comes of Shakuntala and Dushyant, especially since Dr. Sankhe told a beautiful point about the marriage life also, like many other such long-term relations. So in Dushyant and Shakuntala's case, some of you might have heard these names. Now, these two personalities got married in forest away from the kingdom of the king, because she used to stay in the forest. And then they spent some time together, and finally she was pregnant, and she also gave birth to a child. But the birth happened after the king left from that place, and the king came back to the kingdom. Now, Shakuntala kept waiting that the king is going to take me back to the kingdom. Because finally we are married, I'm going to back to my husband's house. I cannot keep staying at my father's house, because in the forest was the father's house. Now here is such an interesting phenomena. For 6 years she waited. Finally the father said, how long you can wait? Just go to the king. He is not calling you. She went to the king. She came to the king and she started telling that, now nobody in the kingdom knew that the king got married to this lady, and nobody in the kingdom knew that the queen, that this lady has a child born from this king. So when she reached the kingdom, that time it is mentioned that nobody was allowing her into the palace. She was introducing, I am the wife of Dushyant. Nobody was allowing. Now, somehow with great, like she was begging, and finally she was allowed in front of the king, and she declared to the whole assembly there that this is the child of Dushyant. Even King Dushyant refused to accept that this is my son. Now imagine what high level of breach of trust. Not only about son, king refused to accept that this is his wife. Now this is a real breach of trust. Refused to accept her as the wife, refused to accept the son. She was left shelterless. Where do I go? She's just a forest lady. And the discussion went for hours and hours and hours and hours. But the beautiful part which is mentioned. Now see here, Shakuntala could have said, I completely lost trust in Dushyant. He is not a good husband. He is not a good king. He is a cheater. He is a liar. He doesn't deserve to be a good leader. This, blah, 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 blah. She could have said like that. But throughout the whole conversation, in the heart of heart, she kept on thinking that if my husband is not able to publicly accept me as his wife, and he denies and refuses, there must be a deeper reason which he is not able to open up to me right now and to this assembly right now. It was amazing. Srinivasanji, that's a right point. She is the mother of Bharat Maharaj. Anyway, main thing is, she kept on waiting for the right time when she will understand why, after all, why Dushyant was keeping quiet, why he was not opening up. So this is a place where she kept trust on the king in spite of major setback in relationship, in spite of external action, not at all conducive for building trust. External action was absolutely could be the cause of breaking the trust, but she did not doubt the intention. Intention must be pure. So she extended trust. And after hours and hours of conversation, when she gave all the proofs, when the whole assembly stood up and said, Dushyant, whether you accept or not, we all say this lady is your wife by the points which she is making. And when the whole assembly stood up and in one voice, everybody accepted Shakuntala as the wife of Dushyant, Dushyant said, yes, she is my wife. And Dushyant said, if I would have said in the beginning, she is my wife, all of you have said, where you got married, you never told us this, that, they would have doubted me and they would have never accepted. But now, since it is coming from their mouth, they have accepted you. For me, it's easy to accept. And I knew it is going to happen. They all will say that they accept you. So acceptance will become very organic, very natural. And then Shakuntala, main point which I am saying is, Shakuntala realized that it was worth putting trust in Dushyant when all the external circumstances were prompting her, do not have trust, break this trust, break this relationship, get lost. But she did not. She did not doubt the intentions. So that's one example of this slide which I am showing here. If you do not extend trust, you won't attract trust. So in spite of all external actions, cause of breaking trust, she did not doubt the intentions. Yes. And here is an example when Hanumanji first time met Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman, and it is said, um, Hanumanji disguised his form in front of Lord Ramachandra. He came um, as a Brahmana. He changed his form. He did not trust. Who are these two brothers? Who are these two brothers standing in the forest? No, actually, Hanumanji was a devotee of Lord Ram. He knew Lord Ram and Lakshman very, very thoroughly. I mean, he was a devotee. But the point is, that time he went to Lord Ramachandra in a disguised form. He did not reveal who he is. And therefore, he could not identify even Lord Ram because he presented himself in a disguised form. He did not put trust there. So trust is like a mutual thing. You put trust, you will gain trust. That is the whole concept here. And this is a beautiful example of Alexander and Philip. Alexander was going all around, especially in Asian countries, going and conquering. And at one point, Alexander became so sick that none of the physicians were willing to treat Alexander, because when anything goes wrong, they will be killed or they will be blamed of malpractices. So when nobody was ready to risk, because in fact they were worried that he might kill us only, as per what the story was told to me. So, but one of the assistants of Alexander, that is Philip, he had so much love for Alexander, he personally worked on making the medicine to cure Alexander. And when he came to give the medicine to Alexander, Alexander had a letter with him. Somebody had given him that the person who will prepare the medicine for you has poison in it. Now, when Philip came to give the medicine, Alexander handed over the letter to Philip, and he took the bowl of medicine and he drank it without even doubting at once. Philip was shocked that so much trust you have on me in spite of this letter. You just accepted the medicine. Now, the point was, Philip had so much love for Alexander, he trusted Alexander that Alexander will not do any harm to me. And because he had so much trust on Alexander, in reciprocation, Alexander has so much trust on Philip that you will not do any harm to me. Mutual trust. So this is again two-way thing. Then another thing is, which we see in this world, trust can be borrowed. You see, some celebrity, people hire them to market their product. And when we have a lot of faith on a certain celebrity, certain superstar, some sports star, and when they use a product, we feel, oh, we should also use. So we do not have trust in that product, but somebody who markets it, we have trust in him. And that marketing person has trust in him. So mutual trust can be borrowed. And we develop trust in that product. Now here a classic example from scriptures in this regard. Putana was a lady who came to kill Krishna. But you see, Krishna was a small child that time in Vrindavan. All the residents of Vrindavan easily developed trust in Putana. Because Putana was a demon. She was like a 12-mile demon. But she changed her form into a beautiful lady. And seeing her beautiful form, everyone trusted, thinking that She is Lakshmi who has come to bless our child Krishna. So immediately they trusted. So Putana realized, if I change my form and turn into a form on which I can be trusted, so trust was borrowed. These are some simple how trust works in this world usually. And trust is contagious. It is said trust or distrust can spread like common cold. Sometimes we are working in a company, working in a group, we have a friend circle and all the friends vouch for some friend says, oh, I use this product, or I went to this vacation and I went to this place, vacation holiday, some vacation. So some holiday package, I use this and it was great. Immediately we develop trust in that person, in that concept. So trust is contagious. Here is an example from Srimad Bhagavatam. One time, there was a conflict between demons and devatas, Rakshas or Devataon mein. Conflict ho gaya. Now to solve that, Lord Krishna had to take a beautiful form of a lady, Mohini Murti, the lady incarnation of Lord Krishna. And Mohini Murti had kept that nectar in her hand for which everyone was desperate to have it. And when Mohini Murti had that nectar in her hand, now here we see it spreads like common cold. Everyone was so attracted to the beauty of Mohini Murti, one person, second person, third person. And when Mohini Murti said, please sit down in a queue, I am going to distribute nectar to everyone equally. Immediately, everyone placed their faith on Mohini Murti. Is a cumulative effect. Everybody just sat down, having complete trust on this personality. Trust is contagious. But trust involves choice of risks. It means making a choice between risk of trusting a person who might turn out to be unworthy and risk of untrusting a person who might turn out to be worthy. It's a risk. And the classic example we see, sometimes an unworthy person will end up taking trust, and a worthy person we do not trust. The best example for this is the golden deer. You see in the screen, we have this on one side, a golden deer, and Sita, Ram, Lakshman are sitting. And when the deer came, we all know that Mother Sita told Ram, please go and get this golden deer for me. Lord Ram, Lakshman, both of them told, please do not get tempted by this deer. This deer will be the cause. This deer will be the cause of lot of problem. This deer can be a demon in disguise. Somebody is writing a comment, a question and a comment that, does beauty create illusion for trust? As we heard the stories of Putana, very much, yes. Therefore, externals does create an illusion for trust. Therefore, gradually we are building up what are the 9 elements required to actually make things trustworthy. We will come to that. But here we see Mother Sita, Lakshman and Ramji, when they were sitting and the deer came, Lakshman was especially very adamant. Please do not get tempted by this deer. This deer is illusory. Very beautiful deer, very unique deer. In fact, this deer had different color combinations. The face was a different color. The hooves were of a different color. The whole body was different colors and different portions. The tail was of a different color, etc., etc. But the point is, Lakshman said, nobody has ever heard of such a deer. Who has heard of such a deer? It must be demon. Maybe it is Maricha only. Even this comment was made. Maricha was the uncle of Ravan, one of the demons who was left unkilled, who was left alive. But Sita put trust on deer which was unworthy. She said she put trust, and as a result, it was a big risk she took. And as a result, when Ram and Lakshman were away from that place, Ravan abducted Sita at that time. So trust has to be placed very, very carefully in this world. Then if you see on other side is the picture of a worthy person who was worthy of trust but was not trusted initially. You see Jatayu. This is a image on the other side of the screen is Jatayu. So when Ram lost Sita and Ram was crying in the forest, searching for Sita everywhere. That time when this Jatayu came in front of Ram and he was sitting all blurred everywhere and injured very badly, wounded. So at first sight, Ram actually thought this is a vulture who has tried to eat away Mother Sita. Because Ram was doubting everyone and anyone who was coming in front. Now this is what happens when we have suffered something, we have lost our dearmost possession. That times we start doubting everyone. Because you have suffered a deep, deep wound in your life. So Ram had suffered that. And therefore, when Jatayu, he said, Jatayu must be the cause of my pain. And that time Lakshman said, relax. Every time you tell me to relax, now I am telling you to relax. Please do not judge. Let's go and find out who is this person and why. And actually, when they go close, they had previously met Jatayu much before when they were with Sita, when they first time came to Panchavati, the Nasik area. When they first time came there, they had met Jatayu, but this time Ram thought this vulture had actually eaten Sita. He did not trust a worthy person. But Lakshman had to remind him, please develop some trust on Jatayu. Let's see what exactly happened. And then they came to know that it was Jatayu who actually fought to save Sita from Ravan. So these are the examples of choice of risks as it is mentioned. And then another equation regarding the trust is trust means a very big responsibility. Greater the trust, greater the responsibility on the trusted to uphold it. Is it not? If you are given a very big position, you are trusted, so responsibility comes. You see? Trust means responsibility. Okay. Lord Ram has to send a reminder to Sugriva to uphold his promise. Now, if you know the story of Ramayana, when Lord Ram's wife, Mother Sita, was abducted, taken away, then taken away by Ravan, he was desperately searching, and that time he came across Sugriva, who was the king of the Vanaras of the monkey clan. And when he met Sugriva, Sugriva said, look, I also lost my wife. My brother has cheated me and you are cheated by Ravan. So let's join hands. You help me, I help you. So Lord Ram helped Sugriva to gain his kingdom back, to get his wife back, etc., etc. So Lord Ram put trust in Sugriva that I will help you, you help me. But after Sugriva received help, for several months, he got absorbed in his enjoyment. I have got my kingdom back. I have got all the opulence back. I have got so much. Therefore, now, so he got so absorbed. After a few months, Lakshman got very restless. Now, in this image, actually, what you see is Lakshman is standing there. And he goes to the palace of Sugriva, where in front you see a lady standing of the monkey race, the Vanara race, that's Tara, the wife of Sugriva. So she's standing there and Lakshman is telling that where is Sugriva? He has forgotten to take his responsibility. We trusted him, he's going to help, but he has forgotten to take his responsibility and he's acting so callous and so neglectful. So they realize here is a person who cannot be trusted. He can anytime be distracted by the opportunities of this world. He is not focused on his task. Cannot be trusted. So to become trustworthy, you have to become responsible. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, a beautiful section comes where Arjun is being told by Lord Krishna, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada. बोले अरे आप तो कौंतेय हैं, आप तो कुंती पुत्र हैं, और कुंती पुत्र होने के नाते आपका तो बहुत बड़ा जिम्मेदारी बनता है. यू हैव टू वर्क very with great tolerance because you are coming from a great lineage which have the lineage which has divine qualities, but you are acting whimsically. You are not able to tolerate the upheavals. You are not able to stick to your responsibility. This is not expected from you. We trust you because you are from a great lineage. There is responsibility. Then he uses the word Bharata. He says you are coming from Bharat Vamsh. You know, sometimes people say, oh, we are proud to be Bharatiyas, we are proud to be Hindus, we are proud to be Indians. But what is the point of being proud of Indians or being Hindus, etc., if one doesn't know what Hindu culture stands for? If one doesn't know what is the in depth the knowledge of Mahabharata or Ramayana, if one is not aware of that, if one doesn't know the teachings of Bhagavad Gita thoroughly, what is the point of being proud of saying that, okay, I am a Hindu, I am an Indian, I am this and that? There is a responsibility. Then only you can be trusted. You take that responsibility seriously. So trust is responsibility. So therefore, till now, we discussed the second section of the trust. That is, trust grows linearly, but can dwindle exponentially. And we discussed the example of Kaikai. Then we discussed trust can be borrowed. We discussed the example of a sports star or a celebrity. And we discussed also with this, and trust is contagious. We discussed the example of Mohini Murthy. Then we discussed trust is the choice of risks. And we discussed about Jatayu and the deer. And we discussed trust is responsibility. And what does that mean? Last slide we discussed about Bharat Vamsh, Kunti Putra, and all these examples. And Sugriva, when you are trusted, you are responsible. You have to fulfill the responsibility. And when you extend trust, look at this circle. When you extend trust, you receive trust. And we discussed the example of Shakuntala and Dushyant. In spite of Dushyant keeping quiet for a long time, Shakuntala did not doubt his intentions. She extended trust. Okay, I will trust my husband, whatever may come. And then husband also reciprocated properly, and everybody trusted on her. So like this, any comments or any experiences, if anybody would like to share in this regard till now, and then we go after this to our real topic, the 9 parameters of building trust that start now onwards, and which will continue till next session. But any comments till now, if you would like to raise hands or you would like to write in the chat, please do. Mukund ji has raised hands. Would you like to say something, or is it by mistake? Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. हाँ मुकुंद जी बोलिए.
मी मराठीत बोलतो, नाही तर हिंदीत बोलतो. I will be able to speak in English, but I will be able to express nicely in other 2 languages.
चलेगा चलेगा, आप हिंदी मराठी किसी में बोलिए, मेरे को अगर नहीं समझेगा तो पूछ लो.
हाँ, डॉक्टर संकेतजींनी जो मुद्दा उपस्थित केला होता त्याबद्दल थोडंसं असं म्हणेन की आपण जो विश्वास ठेवतो आणि तुम्ही म्हणलात तो अट्रॅक्ट करतो, त्याच्यामध्ये मूलतः विश्वास हा भाग आणि त्याच्या 4 कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स तुम्ही ज्या सांगितल्यात त्यामध्ये स्वतःची इन्व्हॉल्वमेंट असणं. यू शुड ट्रस्ट युअर सेल्फ, यू शुड हॅव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, यू शुड हॅव जस्टिस इन युअर सेल्फ. इफ यू बिलीव्ह इन युअर सेल्फ इन दोज 4 कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, त्या 4ही गोष्टींवर तुम्ही स्वतः जर विश्वास ठेवत असाल तर त्याच्यामध्ये नंतर समोरच्या व्यक्तीबरोबर एक बंध निर्माण होतो आपोआप. आणि तो बंध म्हणजे किरणांद्वारे, वेगळ्या किरणांद्वारे तो बंध निर्माण होतो. त्यातून तुमच्या लक्षात येतं की निश्चितपणे ही समोरची व्यक्ती आपल्याला विश्वासार्ह वाटेल का. त्याचा अंदाज आल्यानंतर एक साधा त्यांचा अंदाज आल्यानंतर आपल्याला पुढे जाता येतं. एक साधं उदाहरण घेतो की समोरनं येणारी व्यक्ती जी आहे ना, आपण रस्त्याने चालताना सुद्धा समोरनं येणाऱ्या एखाद्या व्यक्तीपासून आपण किंचित दूर जातो. समोर बैठकीत बसलेल्या 10 लोकांपैकी एखाद दुसरा जो असा वाटतो की आपण ज्याच्याशी संवाद साधावा. हा भाग त्याच्यातलाच आहे की माझ्यातला उन्नतपणा जो आहे तो त्यावेळेला आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करतो. आणि मग आपल्याला समोरची व्यक्ती विश्वासार्ह आहे का नाही, विश्वास ठेवावा का नाही, याचे संकेत मिळतात. एवढंच मला म्हणायचं सध्या.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. जहां तक मुझे समझा कि ये कमेंट था, प्रश्न तो नहीं था शायद, राइट?
प्रश्न ही था, कमेंट ही था.
परफेक्ट, बहुत सुंदर आपने बोला. इनफैक्ट आपके ही संदर्भ में एक और यहाँ पे सुहास नंदी जी भी अच्छा कमेंट दिए हैं यहाँ पे. One has to trust oneself before trusting others, before developing trust with other. तो वो भी एक पॉइंट आपने बोला है.
सर डेवलपिंग का मतलब अलग होता है, बट देयर इज अ कम्युनिकेशन. There is always a communication between two individuals. Looking at them, you can understand that whether I can have a dialogue with him, nice dialogue with him, सकारात्मक बात कर सकते हैं कि नहीं, ये हम लोग समझ सकते हैं. That is a sense which we have got. You can say sixth sense, whatever, but there is always a communication.
Yes.
Within your heart, within your mind, subconscious mind, you can say, if you want. But there is a communication, always a communication. सामने से व्यक्ति आ रही है, I mean, whether it is marriage, or whether it is friendship, or whether it is a dialogue, और even व्यवहार की बातें जो है उसमें भी हम देख सकते हैं. यही होता है. But we have to understand and believe in yourself. You have to have justice in yourself, basically.
Brilliant.
That is what is.
बहुत सुंदर. Thank you. That's really brilliant. Thank you मुकुंद जी for आपके कमेंट के लिए. Okay. So और भी हम कमेंट्स ले लेते हैं. काफी सारे कमेंट्स आए हैं यहाँ पे. So मैं सुहास जी का पढ़ रहा था. One has to trust oneself before developing trust with other. Yes, one has to be honest, honor all commitments, and admit when one is wrong. Then one will be on the way to being seen as trustworthy. Prabhuji, what is the one thing one should stop doing to develop trust quickly? I would say that one thing might differ from situation to situation, but as per my understanding of the subject and experience, what is one thing one should stop doing to develop trust quickly is stop being judgmental to others. And that really helps to build the bridge and connectivity. In the next session, we are going to discuss 3 elements to develop connectivity with others. But one of the things is stop becoming judgmental. I hope that answers Suhasji. Ramchandra Ayarji has raised a point here. We want to be proud Hindus unless we can't be proud Hindus, can't we? Unless we know the Gita and Ramayana, then most of us would not be eligible to be called a Hindu. Yeah, very interesting point you mentioned. It's something worth contemplating. Where do we stand in this regard? Thank you for raising that thought-provoking comment. You see, therefore, Lord Krishna, several times, he passes a sarcastic remark to Arjun. by using various words. Oh, you are Bharata, you are Kaunteya. Then sometimes he uses another word, Purusha Simha. आप पुरुषों में श्रेष्ठ हैं, but आपका कार्य तो बहुत नीचा है. So in Gita's, and at one point, you know what he says? He says, Kuru Nandana. In English, it is translated as, "O beloved child of Kurus." And why does he address Arjuna as child that time? This is, I think, somewhere in second chapter, text number 43, 44, somewhere around that verse, chapter, that verse. He says, you are behaving like a fickle mind of a child. बच्चे का मन स्थिर नहीं होता, restless होता है. And you are behaving restlessly like a child. You are not, you do not deserve to be called a mature adult. You are a child. So he kind of taunts him or passes a sarcasm on him. So yes, similarly, we are supposed to be knowing our scriptures properly. There was a comment I was reading on WhatsApp. This is a long comment, but in a sense, the comment was that you people try to hide in the cover of secularism because some of you, he says, many of you Hindus shy to follow the practices of Hinduism. So this means there is no understanding. Things have become just ritual. People have lost the spirit. Okay, the next one. Most people experience that when they extend trust, the other person reciprocates for some time, but starts taking disadvantage after some time. So when you put trust, one has to be aware at all the times. This is exactly the last section of our presentation, which will come next time. But the whole idea is, when there is a repeated breach of trust, do not just become a puppet in the hand of that. Take appropriate action. Not that, oh, no, I trust whatever nonsense you do. And there's a beautiful story for that, which we'll be sharing next time. But thank you so much, 65660. That is the name you have mentioned on your screen. I'm not sure who is that, but it's a very good point. I really appreciate. Okay, Milindji, you have mentioned Mohini did not distribute nectar to the demons in spite of the trust, but for the good. How do you explain this? Exactly. That's the point I am saying. Demons are not worth trusting because they never behave trustworthy. And one of the elements of trustworthiness, which we'll be discussing next time, is congruence. Demons, their words and actions never match. And in fact, in the current generation, all of us, when our words and actions do not match, that is the demoniac side of our personality. It is said, हर इंसान के अंदर एक राक्षस रहता है, उसको मार के अंदर के देवता को जगाना है. So when demons are like that, so Mohini Murthy said, you are not worth trustworthy, you are cheating me, I will cheat you. So in this world, you can't act foolish. You have to play very, you have to use diplomacy. Now, diplomacy has a great role to play when diplomacy is used for a better social cause, to bring people together, to bring higher values together. It must be used. And that's what Mohini Murthy did. I hope, Milindji, this point makes sense to you. If not, you can write further comments. Ridhesh, somebody by the name Ridhesh Ji is asking, how can we differentiate between actual trust and superficial trust? Is it only risk? Okay. Trust are of two kinds. I would, in your words, I would say superficial trust and deep trust. In our daily dealings, in maybe we go for a business. So regular business happening very good. We place trust on the business dealings. That superficial trust, in one sense, we trust you as a businessman. But then that the trust deepens to the identity level, where we become deep friends, deep relations, trust becomes deeper. So there is no limit to the depth to which trust can develop. Sometimes I remember in our childhood, we used to go and buy vegetables from one shop, and my mother would say, go to that shop only because he really gives us good vegetables at a cheap price. So trust was there. But that doesn't mean we allowed him to come to our house and open all our treasury and give the bank account to her and signatures and everything. Okay, now you are good friends. So in different dealings, different levels of trust is there. But then again, your question is it only risk? Regarding the risk, that's वो बोलते हैं ना, हमने धूप में बाल सफेद नहीं किए. This kind of statement you must have heard. So some maturity comes with age and some maturity. So how does maturity comes? That how much risk to take and where to take the risk? Age factor is there. Association with mature people and getting wisdom from them, that plays a big role to help us to calculate our risk properly. Therefore, in scriptures, if you see, when Dashrath Maharaj had to coronate Lord Ram, he called all the big people of his kingdom. Everybody was sitting there. And he told them that I have never taken a decision without consulting the wise people of my kingdom. And it is said Dashrath Maharaj actually never took that decision. But it is only one time when he had to promise Kaikeyi. Now, Dashrath, it is said a leader should not make private decisions. A leader has no private life. Dashrath Maharaj in the private chambers with Kaikeyi make a decision to give a vow to Kaikeyi, which he had no rights to do that because he was a leader. He should have consulted. So only when he did not consult wise people, he got trapped in a dealing which involved a high risk. Otherwise, when Ram had to be appointed, he consulted all his assembly, and actually assembly took some time to respond. And till the time assembly did not respond, Dashrath was thinking, is it that I have made a wrong statement? Ram is not qualified to be a king, looks like, and they are not wanting to accept it. So that could be a possibility, and looks like it is risky to appoint Ram, who is too young right now. So this means he was evaluating, is it worth trusting Ram as a king or it is a risk? He was evaluating with his minister. Every person should have some connections with some wise, mature people who help him to take decisions. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody's telling, please translate things told in non-English. Okay. Yeah, so I will stick to English. And if I speak in Hindi, I will simultaneously put that in English also. Rangnath ji is making a nice comment. I always follow a quote which was told by Dr. Subramaniam Swami, which says, with trust in God, one gets confidence in heart. Brilliant point. Very nice. Trust in God. Now, I just want to elaborate a little bit on this statement. This is $1 million statement. When we say trust in God means trust in teachings of God, which means we have to become familiar with the teachings of God. Sometimes our trust in God is very superficial also, and very, very misguided also, because there is so much going on in the name of God in the current society that people are not thoroughly taught the science of Bhagavad Gita. Like in Bhagavad Gita, it is very clearly mentioned. One thing is very clearly mentioned. What is the symptom of a Mahatma? Satatam kirtayanto mam. Mahatmas are one who likes to chant Krishna's names. Very clearly mentioned, 9.14. So when we say trust in God, which means we have trust in the teachings of God. Similarly, many things are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, which one should study very carefully. The position of Lord Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, position of Krishna's holy name, position of living entities as servant of God. Like another thing, people have this conception that how we are all one with God. हमको मोक्ष मिल जाएगा तो हम सब ब्रह्म में लीन हो जाएंगे. In English, I would say we would merge in one impersonal Brahman after liberation. Now, this is very much against the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk about that. Bhagavad Gita clearly says Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Liberation means one understands I am a servant of Lord Krishna and my position is to serve Lord Krishna. So again, trust in God. So why I'm making all these points, talking on a contemporary platform, many years back, decades back, when Second World War was going on, many ladies used to go to church to pray that please my husband should come back. Our husband should come back. But when many people died in Second World War, many of these ladies became atheist. They lost trust in God, which means their trust in God was based on a very superficial, sentimental, shallow thought process. They didn't have real understanding that those who trust in God, they also go through suffering because of their karma. There is a whole science of karma also going. Trust in God doesn't mean. So the statement which you are saying, with trust in God, one gets confidence in heart, but provided one has trust in the teachings of God properly. That's very important. Then one gets confidence in heart. Okay, what happens when trust is breached by the one you trust? That breach of trust is a whole separate session, not separate session, section of this session, which I'll be taking next time towards the end. Okay, in the contemporary world of rat race, trust element works. Oh yes, very much works. Simple on a professional level. You buy something, you trust. You go to a cab driver, you trust. Simple about driver thing, you want to appoint a driver. Last time you hired some driver and he did not, you were going for a long drive, he did not put the fuel properly, he banged the car somewhere, he was supposed to come at 5 o'clock, he came at 7 o'clock, you lose trust. So rat race, your car was going for a race, but you needed trust. So that's the point, trust is required, whether it's rat race. So thank you for that comment. One and only one person to be trusted without all doubts is God. He unconditionally embraces us. Thank you, Meena Kumari ji, for this comment. This comment has a separate discussion in our next session only, part 2 of this trust, building trustworthiness. Next one, but Rahu did not trust Mohini. He was really clever. On Mohini Murthy, you made that comment. That's a detailed story. Some of the people in this audience may not know that story. But in simple words, who does not put trust in God easily? Those who have demoniac propensities, or in simple words, selfish ulterior motives. They do not put trust in God easily. That's the point here. Vivekanand ji is giving a nice comment. For me, trust is an absolute trump. Very good. And there's one or two more comments before we conclude today's session. It is mentioned. Okay, this is Srinivasan ji has made a comment. Maricha did not trust Ravan and warned him, Guruji. Okay, so Maricha did not trust Ravan. Yes, this is also interesting that Ravan was anyway not trustworthy, and as because even his followers knew that this man cannot be trusted long. Actually, we have a very wonderful discussion on this, so we'll be discussing next time. But the whole idea is that Maricha was aware of the real knowledge, who Ram is, because Maricha had experienced the capability of Ram. So out of the 9 elements of trust, one of the elements is capability. And Maricha had experienced the capability of Ram. So therefore, he had more trust on Ram. And Maricha also knew Ravana, whose problem was overconfident. And since he had seen the character, there is one of the element of trust is character, which we'll be discussing next time. But in the character, in the Ravana's character, there was fault, and in the Ram's capability, there was no fault, which Maricha had experienced. And therefore, Maricha told Ravan that this is inappropriate. Okay, Shashi ji is asking when we will have miracles of chanting mantra part 2. We'll be having after 3 or 4 sessions from now, maybe 3 sessions from now. So thank you very much to each one of you for being present here. 2 people have raised hand. I'm sorry I missed out. Dr. Sankhe has raised hand and Ranganath ji. Yes, Dr. Sankhe, you can speak. I have unmute you.
Yeah, no, sorry. So I'm very lazy about typing and I'm not good at it. So that's why I raise my hands. So uh, the important point which you mentioned about the incongruence uh, for not trusting a person. So I just wanted to add to that the say there are two very important statements by Guru Gobind Singh. He said that the experience which he had with people, see the dharmic people have been always believing in this trustworthiness. That's the foundation of Hindu Dharma because of their teachings and even till maybe 5 decades back in a village somebody comes and tells in front of the village deity or in holding a cows or keeping hand on cows, he says anything, people would trust it. That was the kind of foundation that we had. So Guru Gobind Singh had experienced something else from the Mughals and the Muslim community. That he said that you first put your hand in a oil and then put the hand in a bag of teal, sesame. And as many teal is in your hand, those many times, even if somebody says who's from that community that they are friendly to you and they trust you, never believe them. And another thing he said is that I have no problem with your being a Muslim, being a devout Muslim, praying 5 times namaz. As long as you believe that I'm a kafir, I will not trust you. Very simple. As long as you accept that I'm a kafir, I cannot trust you. That's all. That means I'm supposed to be killed. So no matter like बकरे के साथ भी बहुत अच्छा friendship करते हो लोग. With the goat they keep in their house, they feed him nicely, everything, and then they cut him. So that's the point I wanted to make, that the incongruence in the behavior and the teaching which he believes. So the demoniac propensity is that you have something which you believe in, and for your making your you can say goal successful, you show a lot of trustworthy behavior, and that is we have to be careful about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sankhe, for a very relevant comment on incongruence. Yes, thank you. So, Ranganath, do you want to ask something or you want to say something? Yes, we have.
Namaskar, Prabhuji. So I'm in my mid-20s, Prabhuji. So I have mainly two doubts. So whenever things don't go in our way, so my main doubt is how to still keep faith in God, how to trust in God. And the other thing is, whenever someone doesn't, go as per our trust, if they distrust us, how to deal with those situations. So these two questions might help me in the future for the upcoming of my career.
Just 1 second. Tell me the first question in one line first. Yeah, what is the first question?
So whenever things go in our ways, like whenever we put so much effort in one thing, and whenever we don't get the result, or not just result, when mishappenings happen to us, when we trust in God, so how to still keep trust, Swamiji, like without getting distracted from the God's path. And whenever
okay, first we'll take this question first. Yeah.
Okay,
so very good question. How to keep trust, things do not go our way. So therefore we have to understand the science of God, and as it is said, God has 3 characteristics we have discussed before also: all merciful, all knowing, and all powerful. So at times things do not go our way, so we may doubt either God is not merciful, Or if he's merciful, he doesn't know that I am suffering. Or if he knows and he's mercy, but it doesn't have power. So the idea is, when we understand by our study of scriptures, God has all three, then that time, with that study, we have to keep patience that maybe there is some better plan for me, which I am not able to understand right now. That is the point. And then we have to study Mahabharata and see, in Mahabharata, Krishna's closest friends were Pandavas. And Pandavas suffered like anything. Everything was going wrong in their life, apparently, for a long phase of their life. But finally, things did turn out to be in their favor, but they had to be patient. And it is mentioned, the other day I was discussing, when such testing situations come in our life, test is compared to a thermometer. Test is compared to a thermometer, which is stuffed in your mouth to measure the temperature of your commitments. Does it make sense? So test is a thermometer stuffed in your mouth to measure the temperature of your commitments. So just testing times are like that. Next question. Yeah, you were asking second two questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever the person whom we trust the most, whenever they don't, whenever they mistrust us, so mistrust us. So how do we deal with those situations? Like how to address them? Is it
There
how
are
to handle it?
seven things one should not do when somebody breaks our trust. And what one should not do, I will not tell that secret now. I will tell that secret in the next session, because there is a whole discussion of 30 minutes, 20 minutes on that session. Okay. So thank you for your very meaningful questions. And I will just read what Kunal Chavanji is writing. Rightly said, if things doesn't go our way, then think like God might have a better plan for us. Thank you for that comment. Okay, we'll end the session now. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Hari Naam Sankirtan ki jai. Thank you so much.